So you are wanting to create mock-ups for your sales pages, but you don't know where to get started. That's what I want to cover in this video. And hey, if we haven't met, I'm Elise Cartwright from Hustle and Groove, and I have helped over 1,000 creative entrepreneurs ditch social media and create daily sales. And in this video, I am going to walk you through exactly step by step how you can create beautiful mock-up images that showcase the tangible thing that someone is actually getting with your intangible offers, aka your digital products, your coaching, your courses, all the things. So let's dive into doing just that. So canva.com is a free tool that you can use if you have zero designer skills. Now, I am by no means a designer at all, so I appreciate that a lot of the stuff that you want to use and create can be done in Canva. But specifically around mockups, that isn't necessarily something that is set up in Canva, so you do have to create a few different things. So the first thing that you need to consider is, okay, so if I'm going to mock this up, what do I need to show? So if you have a course, a coaching, literally anything where someone's accessing the thing, you want to showcase what that might look like for them. So at a minimum, that is probably going to look like a computer, a laptop, an iPad, a phone, right? Those are kind of the mock-up objects that we're going to use. Then you need to put something in the mock-up, right? What does that look like? So this is where you can take a screenshot of inside your course area. You can take a screenshot of your coaching templates, your workbooks, all of those things. So that's basically what I do when I create a mock-up. So I'm going to show you some of the mock-ups that I have, and then I'm going to walk you through how you can create this if you've just got the free version of Canva. And then I'm also going to walk you through how you can get access to some products that allow you to create even more beautiful mock-up images. But let's start with free first. So I am just going to show you what I have done for my shop mock-up images, because that's the easiest one to show you, because these are all of my shop images. So these are all different mock-ups, and as you can clearly see, they are showing someone what they're visually going to see when they access the thing. So there's lots of different ways that you can do this, and it really just depends. So for example, this one here is called the Offer Plug-in Sell Sales Kit, and it's a guide and template. So there's no video content. So I'm not going to show a computer with a video on it. What I have shown is an iPad and then a 2-page spread of what's inside, right? Because it's a guide. So that totally makes sense. Then for the Marketing by Design guide and training, there is actually a video. So I've showcased that, and then you can see that there is a guide. Then there are some Human Design for Business toolkits. So this is a mixture of video and prompts and templates. So I've just mocked it up in that way. This is an actual training course. So typically when I'm showcasing a training course, I will use a desktop computer, a laptop, and an iPad, and potentially a mobile phone, depending on whether I have an audio component that goes along with it. And then you can see there's a couple of the templates that they will actually have access to. So again, lots of different ways that you can kind of map this out. Now, these particular mockups are not created with the free stuff that you have access to in Canva. I have purchased the images that kind of go around this, and I've purchased some of the mock-ups to be able to create this. So what I'm going to do is show you how to create something like this, and then what it looks like when you have access to like a premium mock-up tool that you can have inside Canva. So the first thing is that we are going to try and emulate this as closely as possible, and I'm going to show you what you're going to look for. So the first thing that you need to do is to actually have something to mock up. So this is where you could upload, anything you can see here. There's lots of different images. I typically take a screenshot of anything that I've created. So the first thing that you want to do is take some screenshots, right? We want to go through and do that. So because we're using the weekly sales series, I'm just going to scroll through all of the things that I have. I'm going to find that, and I'm going to take a screenshot of what it looks like. So this is the weekly sales series training course, and I'm just going to take a screenshot that looks like this. And that's it, right? I don't need to do anything else. I'm just going to take that screenshot. I'm going to come back to Canva. And what I'm going to do is upload that screenshot because it does need to be an image that you're actually uploading. So let's bring that over because I want to show you just how simple this can be when you allow it to be simple. So then all I'm going to do is click on it and that's going to put it into here. Now I'm going to click on edit. And now I have the option to use the mockups tool that is part of Canva. Now there's lots of different things that you can see here. You can see it says smartphones, print, computers. So that's what I'm going to use here. Now, most of the computer stuff that you see here, it has a whole bunch of background imagery and all of those things. And we don't want that. We want an image that has nothing else attached to it, which is one that looks like this. So I'm just going to use this version, and what it's going to do is pop that into there, and I'm going to click on fit because that's what I want it to do. I want it to fit rather than try and fill because it's not quite the same size. So then I'm going to move it up to here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And so now we have the first part of our mock-up. We have the computer. And you can see here, that's what we've done here. So the next thing that we need to do is the iPad. So same deal, you need to find an image that you can pull in first. So you have to have the image first. Okay, so I've found my image, and again, same deal. I'm going to click on it. Now, you have to be careful that it doesn't do exactly what it just did there, which is try to insert it into that other mock-up. So we're going to move it to here. And that's about the size that I want it. And then I'm going to click on edit again, and then we're going to go into mockups and we're going to look for tablets and TVs. That's what we're going to use. And the same deal, we're looking for the individual version. And you'll see that there's lots of different options. Now you'll see that there's a portrait and a landscape. So if you wanted to show a video in an iPad, you could absolutely do that. But I'm just going to click on the portrait version. And then you can see here, it's a perfect fit, so nothing that I need to do here. But what I do want to do is make this just a little bit smaller, and I want to have it on an angle because we're trying to replicate what we've got up here. So that's that version there. So I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. And then you can see that we've got a whole bunch of pages. And these are honestly just pages that I've grabbed from here. You can see here I've taken lots of screenshots and I've done lots of different things. Now, in terms of being able to add those to kind of like print stuff, that type of thing, same deal. You're going to want to pull them in first, and then you're going to click on edit, and then you're going to look for the mockups again, and then you're going to look for print. That is what we're looking for here. And you can see here there's lots of these different options. So you will have to scroll through to find the ideal kind of print version. So these are all the books, but we're looking for an individual page to be able to use. So I quite like this one that's got like a little corner on the side there. I think that that works really well. So I'm just going to resize that, and then I'm going to move it over to here. And then you can see we might need to resize this just a little bit more, and we might do it that way. And then you can just duplicate it, make it go that way. And you can have it go off the page if you wish. If you don't, then you just pull it down until you've got it how you want. Now, the biggest difference that you'll see here is that most of these have kind of like a shadow. So this is the challenge when using this tool or these mockups, is that you don't have that option. So I'm just going to show you what I would do to replicate it from this way, and then position, I'm going to send that to the back. So now I've got something fairly similar, and then I'm going to move this in, move this up because I don't necessarily want it hanging off the page like that. And then the missing piece that we have is kind of that book layout. So there isn't a mock-up for the book specifically. So you will either just have to, not have that. But that's essentially how you can recreate something kind of similar to what that was. So I'm just going to move this a little bit up. And then what I would do is add in a couple of those different elements. You can see here we've got a coffee mug and a little pot plant. And where you're going to find those is in the photo section. So we're going to come back to photos. And then what we're going to look for is coffee. So I'm just going to put coffee. And what you're going to look for is one that is looking down on it to match the flat lay layout that we're putting here, although you could also choose to have one that was sitting as well, that was front on. And what you can do is remove the background. So I'm a huge fan of doing this. Now I've got the Pro version, so anything that has a little crown on it means that it's Pro. So if you don't want to have to pay for anything, all you're going to do is click on these little options and you're going to click on free, and then that's going to bring up everything that you have the ability to use for free. So you want to find something that is going to match, that's pretty vanilla in terms of what's around it. So this is actually a really good option here. So then I've just moved it in there. I'm just going to click background remover to get rid of all of the background. And then what I'm going to do is resize it down, and it's always going to try and put it into things like that. So you have to be a little bit more careful. So I'm just going to move this over to here. I'm going to do background again. And then when you're moving this around, you may have to, sort of play around with the sizing and stuff. But that to me, and then I like to have it typically sitting on the corner. Now, this is not to scale, so I would definitely move that down just a little bit, and then I might have it sort of sitting out here. Now, I do have the ability to add that little shadow to this. So I'm going to click on edit, and then what I'm going to do is click on the shadows option. And the option that we're looking for is just the drop shadow. And you can see here it's added that nice little shadow, which just gives it a different kind of effect, which I think is really nice. So that's how you can get a coffee mug or a coffee or a tea, whatever is your option. And then I'm going to do a pot plant. And I'm looking for something that is similar. So looking front on versus top down. So I actually don't mind the succulent. And because we've still got this on the free version, it is something that I have the ability to actually use. So I'm going to do the same thing, and it doesn't have a background, which is fantastic. So that's perfect. And now we're slightly off balance. So I would need to put something over here. So if you find that when you look at it, it does look a little bit off balance, you can just change this so that it is sitting here in front, and you are going to now want to reposition that to be forward as much as you can. And then you're going to move it maybe to sit. You want it to kind of be in alignment with that coffee. So see how we've got the purple lines kind of lining things up. So then we've got these two different kind of elements. So I don't really like the way that that's sitting. So I'd probably move that over here, or I'd probably use something different. I might look for glasses. That's another option that I quite like. So reading glasses. So basically I'm looking for some that are folded, and this becomes a little bit trickier when you don't have the Pro version, to find something where you've got single glasses that you can use and you remove the background. So you may find that this isn't possible in here, although this one here is a perfect. So I'm just going to remove the background and see what that looks like. And then we've got another kind of prop. That's the best way to put it. And then I'm going to kind of put it on an angle. I want it to be to scale. And then we've got something that's a little bit more balanced. So that's how you can create your mock-up images using the free version that you have here inside Canva. These, like I said, are purchased. I've purchased this entire mock-up kit, and I will link to that in the section below. But basically, this is called Mock-up Mastery, and it is something that my amazing friend Jessa Bauman has created, and it is one of the best things that I've ever used because it does allow you to create all these different amazing things. So this is the digital bundle Scene Creator, and this just gives you all the different elements that you could possibly need to create those beautiful mock-ups. I highly recommend grabbing this because, as you can see, you've got different variations and they all have the shadow background, all of those things. You can see here all these different components, the layouts, everything that you could possibly need to create beautiful mock-ups like what I have done in my H&G shop. So hopefully that gives you a very clear understanding of what you need to do. And if you want to see any other videos like this, let me know in the description below. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.